The Wisconsin quarterback battle between Miami transfer Tyler Van Dyke and veteran Braedyn Locke is complicated. And whoever Luke Fickell chooses at QB1 could create long-term future implications there. I'll explain it all next. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. You know, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. It's $150, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Why the Badgers QB1 battle is tricky. Gonna get into that. We'll have portal news. Big exodus at Michigan State. That's crazy. Plus, Reggie Bush gets his Heisman back. And our weekend classics. You don't want to miss those as well. But let's start off with the Wisconsin Badgers. They have a very interesting scenario going on, developing at quarterback this spring. As you Badger fans know, last year, Luke Fickell and offensive coordinator Phil Longo, they came to Madison with ideas of launching an air attack offense in year one of their regime. They hit the transfer portal, and they found a quarterback that could come in and air it out at Madison. At least that was the plan. That turned out to be Tanner Mordecai. He had great numbers and set all kinds of records at SMU, and he was second-team All-AAC back in 2021. Upon his arrival, the main problem we found out was the Big Ten was not the AAC. Its defenses were much too good. He only threw 9 touchdown passes all year. He was decent at managing the game and managing the offense, and he could run a little bit, but he wasn't going to beat anybody on his own. So back to the drawing board at Madison. With year 2 approaching, Fickell and company, they hit the portal again. This time they landed Miami quarterback Tyler Van Dyke. Now, Van Dyke, he can throw the football, but he is woefully inconsistent. At least he was at Miami over several years. Good games and bad games. Let me tell you about a little bit about him before we kind of tell the rest of the story, if you will. Last year there, he threw 19 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Not great. He threw 3 interceptions twice in games against North Carolina State and Georgia Tech, but he threw 5 touchdowns and 0 interceptions versus Texas A&M. See what I mean there about being woefully inconsistent? Get ready for some of that in Madison. But there's also a tremendous upside to Van Dyke. In 2021, if you want to go back a few years, he threw 25 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions. That's some pretty good stuff. And that's the kind of stuff Luke Fickell, like any good coach, thinks he can corral and squeeze out of Van Dyke. It's all very exciting, except for one thing. I'm hearing that one of the holdover quarterbacks, Braedyn Locke, he's outperforming Van Dyke in practice during spring ball. And he does have some experience. He knows the system. Fickell admitted that Van Dyke has struggled at times picking up the system on the fly. After all, he just got there. So let's talk about Braedyn Locke for just a minute here and get a feel for this, because I think he's Braedyn Locke's a pretty interesting story. So he played in 5 games for the Badgers last year, started 3 when Mordecai injured his arm. And the Badgers 2023 passing game improved, in my opinion. When I'm watching him in the Badger games, I'm like, oh, there's a little bit of offense here. Because until then, they ran the ball great. They had great running backs and big offensive linemen, like they normally do. That still was good. But then they go ahead and put Braedyn Locke in there, and all of a sudden they have a little bit of a passing game. It was kind of impressive, to tell you the truth. So he became the first Badger freshman to have multiple passing games of 240 or more yards. He led the Badgers to a come-from-behind victory over Illinois, and he earned Big Ten Freshman of the Week honors as well. And with a little bit of seasoning under his belt now, he's gunning for the starting job in 2024, and he should. Very much part of this mix. So this is where things get a little bit complicated for both Van Dyke and for Luke Fickell moving forward. Now, Van Dyke only has one more year of college eligibility left. This is a make or break season for him and his entire future in his playing career if he has any dreams of making it happen at the next level. The last thing he wants to see happen is, transfer to Wisconsin only to get beat out at quarterback and sit on the bench and waste away in his last year. He can't afford to do that. I think there's a real possibility that if he sees things aren't going his way by the time spring wraps up here, he may transfer out. I mean, that's the thing to do. Transfer without ever taking a snap at Wisconsin after going through all spring ball. I think that's a possibility. I think that's on the table. Now, if that happens, that would create two problems for Luke Fickell. First of all, the depth chart. The Badgers had another backup quarterback in Nick Evers, but he saw Van Dyke and Locke getting all the attention, and he bolted for the transfer portal last week. So he's gone. There'd be no depth at quarterback. Secondly, it would be the second failure of sorts in 2 seasons for Fickell regarding taking on transfer portal quarterbacks. Mordecai didn't work out last year. And a well-known quarterback like Van Dyke, if he leaves, that's going to get a lot of attention. They get a lot of people's attention, especially future quarterbacks in the portal. They'd be like, wow, I could transfer to Madison and not even play there. Could be a thing. Could be a little reputation that hangs over Luke Fickell's head. So he didn't really want that to happen either. Now, does that put extra pressure on Fickell to name Van Dyke the starter? If all things are even, yeah, I think maybe it does. If they're not, he's obligated, of course, to put the best quarterback that gives the Badgers the best chance at winning on the field. Speaking of on the field, by the way, Camp Randall Stadium, it's getting a big old facelift here this offseason. Badgers have called it home since 1917. It's one of the greatest home field advantages in all of college football. Playing jump around, jumping the stand. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. So they've been undergoing some major renovations there. And part of it is they've been putting in a heated playing surface, much like they have in nearby Green Bay with the Packers at Lambeau. And with the expanded playoffs coming and Wisconsin thinking they're going to be good for a long time, they might get some playoff games. And in fact, they might even get some home playoff games in December. So snow, ice, whatever, that can happen. And so they're going to have the heated field. Pretty nice feature to have there. In the meantime, the Badgers have not been able to use the field for spring ball. However, work I hear is ahead of schedule, and the team could have full use of the facility by July. So that is all good there. Hey, Badger fans, or anybody else for that matter, if you love what you're seeing here, and I hope that you do, subscribe. It's free. Click the button, and that's it. Doesn't require any information. Again, it's free, and you can follow Locked On Big Ten wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. There's a mass exodus of players at Michigan State. What's going on? We're going to look into that a little bit. Plus, Reggie Bush gets his Heisman back. Yeah, we got to talk Reggie Bush and USC. They're part of the Big Ten family now, right? We got to get used to that. Anytime there's news out at Southern Cal or those other schools, we talk about them here. In fact, this week, if you want to go back to our prior podcast, we did a podcast on the Oregon Ducks. We did one on the USC Trojans just in the past couple of days. Go back and check it out after you're done with this one. Or you can go to our website, talkbig1010.com. We put all of our podcasts there in order, chronologically, and also we group them by team and schools. So it's easy for you to find what you're looking for. All right, so we're going to look into this, all the portal news. Got some portal news from Penn State, Michigan State. Interesting story about Luke Altmyer at Illinois. We'll get to all of that. That's all coming up in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. All right, FanDuel. FanDuel is fun. I've been telling you about FanDuel all the time for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. And it's fun. It makes games even more entertaining than they already are. Whether it's an NBA playoff game, NHL playoffs. Boy, they were awesome this week, by the way. Baseball's rolling. FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. You can bet on everything from the slap shots, slam dunks, home runs, strikeouts. It's all on an app that's safe, secure, easy to use. So I'll ask you, what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. I got some action I like tonight for Thursday night, NBA playoffs. Cavaliers lead the series against the Magic, 2-0. Magic are 1.5-point favorites. I like the Magic in this one. They're not going to get swept in this series. You know what? Same thing with the 76ers and the Knicks. Joel Embiid promised that they were going to win this series. Well, they're down 2-0. It flips to Philadelphia. Sixers are 4.5-point favorites. Take them. Nuggets -1.5 on the road at the Lakers. I think the Lakers win this game. Go ahead and take the Lakers as the underdog. And some hockey. Panthers and Lightning. Panthers are up 2-0. It's now flipping back to Tampa. Some great goaltending in this one. I like the Lightning in this one to get their first win in the series. So check it out. Play along with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right. I want to thank everybody for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day, especially you everydayers. And I want you to subscribe if you can. Right here on YouTube, if you're watching there, you can share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten wherever you're catching our podcast here. Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget our website, talkbig1010.com. All right, some news around the league that I find very interesting. We told you a couple days ago, actually, I think it's been a couple weeks now, that former Penn State wide receiver KeAndre Lambert-Smith has reportedly decided to go to Auburn. He was in the portal a couple weeks ago. Now he's going to Auburn. He's made up his mind. His choice of schools was down to Texas A&M and Auburn, and he's decided to go to Auburn. You know, he was Drew Aller's top option in 2023 with 673 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns last year. His biggest moments came in the 2023 season opener against West Virginia, where he had a 72-yard touchdown, and he caught a game-winning 57-yard touchdown versus Indiana, but he disappeared. The last 4 games of the season, only had 2 catches. I don't know what was going on there. Decided to hang around through spring football instead of bolting at the semester. But then after all, decided he missed the last couple of practices. I'm out of here. And has decided to go to Auburn. By the way, if you watched or listened to yesterday's Locked On Big Ten podcast, we power ranked Big Ten quarterbacks. You probably noticed we had Illinois quarterback Luke Altmyer ranked pretty high. There's another story about him. So he grew up in Mississippi, right? What do we know about Mississippi? The Manning family. You know, they're all down there. And he loved the Manning family. Archie, Eli, Peyton, the whole deal. And many of you know that the Mannings have a pretty prestigious quarterback camp run by Peyton and Eli and Archie as well. It's called the Manning Passing Academy. It's a big deal to go there if you're a quarterback. Altmyer, who had been before, by the way, was invited to go again. And although it would overlap spring ball a little bit, Brett Bielema tells the story that Altmyer told him that he was invited but declined to go because he didn't want to miss 4 days of spring ball with his team. He wanted to hang out with his teammates to get better. Thought that was pretty good. And I think Bielema liked that as well. So he stayed and worked out with him. Altmyer threw 13 touchdowns in 9 starts before getting concussion last year. And I thought he looked to be in midseason form for what we saw him in the first half of the spring game last week. It's looking pretty good. Meanwhile, let's talk about Michigan State. Defensive tackle Derek Harmon is going into the transfer portal. Put his name in this week. He is the 10th Spartan scholarship player to announce that he's leaving East Lansing since April 16th. He's the 7th player in the past week. What is going on? Harmon's a good player, by the way. Totaled 40 tackles with 3.5 tackles for loss and 1.5 sacks last season. And he was durable 2 years in a row. He's played 12 games. So that's pretty good. So what's going on? Well, you know, Jonathan Smith is a new coach doing things his way. Also been bringing in a lot of transfers in, his guys, his players that he wants. And maybe some players are kind of looking around going, maybe this place isn't for me. Not a knock on anybody. People are just different. So maybe both sides wanted to kind of wait and see how things worked out at spring ball. Spring ball winds down. Players decide to go. A lot of them are going. So that's where we are right now. And as we mentioned a few moments ago, former Southern Cal running back Reggie Bush is getting his Heisman Trophy back. Now, again, we got to get used to covering USC. That's why we're mentioning it here. They're Big Ten. Not officially, but very close to officially. So we're talking about, we did, like I said, we did a feature on him this week already. Bush won the Heisman in 2005. He was forced to return it in 2010 for receiving improper financial benefits back in the days before name, image, and likeness were legal or a thing. But given the difference, how college football is today and what is acceptable and what is legal compared to what was the case in the early 2000s, a lot of people are like, this is ridiculous. And the Heisman group and the NCAA, they're different anyway. They're not even, it was the NCAA that put pressure on them to take the Heisman away. And so they did. The Heisman committee has received a lot of pressure from former outspoken Heisman Trophy winners that said, look, this is ridiculous. Give Reggie Bush his trophy back. And Johnny Manziel even said a few months ago, I'm never going to a Heisman ceremony again until Reggie Bush gets his trophy back. I don't know if that's what pushed it over the top. I doubt it, but it's getting it back. It's all good. And then USC gets the replica back that they get to put out. I think they got like 8 of them. It's crazy. By the way, in the daytime, are you busy watching daytime sports, talking pundit, TV, all that? Fox Sports, ESPN. You ever get tired of the yelling and the yapping and the talking over each other and the screaming? Well, make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, which we talk about all the time. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You know, on Thursdays, we always like to look ahead to what's coming up on the Big Ten Network with Big Ten Classics and live action. So get you ready. Get your TV watching planning done here, right here. It's coming up next. Some good stuff coming up. You want to get the DVR ready if you can't make it live. All that coming up in just 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. Monopoly Go. It's taking the world by storm. Monopoly Go. It's been downloaded over 150 million times, and it's a twist on the Monopoly game that you're familiar with from when you were a kid. But you can play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, all digitally building up amazing cities that bring you in big money. And the best part is you can play with your friends or you can mess with your friends, be a tycoon against your friends. I told you before, it's like an Ocean's 12 movie. You can steal money from them. It's a lot of fun. Keep all the riches to yourself. You team up with friends or strangers all around the world with this in time tournaments and earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now for free on the App Store or Google Play. Again, it's Monopoly Go. And if you want to attend some sporting events or any events that require a ticket, and this includes concerts and comedy shows, you got to get the Game Time app. You got to get this, especially if you're the person in your group that's always in charge of getting tickets. This makes it stress-free and easy. You do everything on your phone. Voila, ready to go. Got a lot of great features. Very easy to buy tickets. They have last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. Usually you wait till last minute, prices go up. Not here, not on Game Time. They got flash deals. You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event as well. Plus, I always like you can see the picture of the seat you're about to buy a ticket for right there on your phone. Go, oh, that's a good view. I like it. Or, hey, maybe this isn't as good. Maybe I'll find another one right there before you go ahead and buy it. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and the redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, it is time to take a look at what's coming up here on the weekend on the Big Ten Network. If you're audio only, I'll describe it in detail as best I can. We got a lot. We got a full slate here I want to share with you. So I'm going to put them on screen here right away. Let's get busy with all this that's going on. We're going to pick it up on Friday, April 26th at, I believe here, let's see. Hold on. I got baseball, 5 o'clock, right? Illinois at Maryland. That is at 5 o'clock. And then at 7 o'clock, a Maryland Football Classic, Illinois at Maryland from 2018. And that is where Javon Leake had a 97-yard return and rushed for 3 touchdowns in that game for the Terps. At 8 o'clock, we've got the Big Ten baseball, Purdue versus Northwestern at Wrigley Field. All right. That's cool. So check that out. And then at 10 p.m., Northwestern football, Big Ten Elite, 1995. These are Eastern times, by the way. You know what happened in 1995? They opened the season with a win against Notre Dame. Then they ended up winning the first Rose Bowl since 1949. That's all capped, put together, and a nice story packaged in an hour. 1995, Northwestern football. You want to check that out. All right, so we move to Saturday, Big Ten spring football. That's right. We still have spring games. Nebraska. Dylan Raiola, quarterback, 5-star freshman. Check it out. All right, at 1 o'clock, Big Ten Elite, the 1994 Nebraska football team is featured here. This is Tom Osborne's first national championship team. At, let's see, what else we got here? At 2:15, got some Big Ten baseball, Iowa at Nebraska. And then at 4:15, Iowa Football Classic. It is from 2019. This is where they played Nebraska. Keith Duncan hits a 48-yard field goal with a second to go, and Iowa wins 27-24. So that's a lot of good stuff there. We have some more from Saturday at 6 o'clock. Spring football for Maryland. You want to watch that? Check it out. And then at 7 o'clock, the Maryland Football Classic, Michigan State at Maryland from 2016. This is where Perry Hills, do you remember Perry Hills? Threw for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns as the Terps won 28-17 over the Spartans of Michigan State. And then at 8 o'clock, if you missed it earlier, it's a replay of Rutgers spring football, followed at 8:30 by a Rutgers football classic just from a few months ago in December, the Pinstripe Bowl, where they pounded on Miami. Kyle Monangai rushing for 163 yards and a touchdown, defeated the Miami Hurricanes 31-24 at Yankee Stadium. It was a glorious day. Actually, it was an awful day. Gray skies, cold, nasty. But, you know, Rutgers can handle that. Miami could not. So they ended up winning that. And we'll take a look at Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern time, Big Ten baseball, the Big Ten Network. Rutgers at Indiana, followed by 11:30, the replay of the Rutgers spring football game. And at 2:30, the Big Ten moment, the Buckeyes walk off on the Wolverines. It's a recap show. Urban Meyer talks. It's that double overtime win for the Buckeyes in 2016 over the Wolverines. And then they actually play that game on the Classics at 4:30. That's been on a lot lately. You Buckeye fans can't get enough of that. Back from 2016, 110,000 people were in the shoe. Curtis Samuel, the 15-yard touchdown run in double overtime to win 30-27. So that's a look at Big Ten Classics and also some live action coming up this weekend. You can check it out live or set your DVR. Again, we have no affiliation with the Big Ten Network. We just kind of cover the same stuff. So I thought you'd be interested to know what was going on. Many ways for you to reach out to me. I always like to hear from you at Twitter, at X, at Talk Big Ten number 10, also on YouTube as well, with the comments following the podcast, and also our website, talkbig10number10.com. Don't forget that. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't, or tell your friends about us, especially if you have a Big Ten friend or family member that might not be aware that we're out here every day giving it to you. You can follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app and get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it is available each and every day. We always invite you to watch another episode too. Again, share it with your friends. And also, if you'd like to check out Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe there. It's the first ever 24/7 sports streaming channel by our friends here at Locked On. So I hope you check that out as well. We're going to look a little bit at that Nebraska spring game coming up this weekend in tomorrow's podcast. So tell your Nebraska fans to check that out. Plus, we'll have all the latest news, portal news. We're always keeping an eye on stuff there. That is all coming up. Thanks for visiting today. I enjoyed it as always, and I can't wait to talk to you again tomorrow. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Sheeman.